and welcome to the left wing. Well, we are here in the lovely Place Plemerou. This is our start of our fifth week here, lads.
Fifth and final weekend tour. Sadly.
Week 5 in the Big Brother house. We're all still talking, which is
just
right.
we're paid to talk to each other, Cian. That's the gig. Last weekend tour, and I think it's going to be the last week of warm weather. We may be recording in long sleeves by Wednesday. I think the temperatures are due to drop tomorrow, but it's absolutely stunning here today, and we're kind of drinking it in. I think everyone's sad to be going on Thursday when they ship out. For as long as Ireland are at this tournament, they'll be in Paris. They won't. I think they would have liked to stay the tour and kind of do what they're doing, but they can't. So we'll miss this place.
They definitely will. I met a member of the backroom team yesterday who stopped and just said, how much they are going to miss it, but also they'd miss tour anyway. But it's the fact that they're going to Paris and they're going to the middle of nowhere at every step of the way.
So it's a good bit out of the city.
They've pulled out. They're the second last, I think, ranked team in terms of the luck of the draw. So I mean, Ireland really don't fancy the places they're going staying, so you can see why they really are going to miss this place.
Topping the pool, I think, gets them up. I mean, we're going to be talking about permutations a bit later. There's the permutations around where you're staying as well. I think topping the pool gets them up a notch. I think they're expecting to be staying at the hotel they're in this week, which is about 2 hour or an hour north of Paris. They're expecting, if they beat Scotland, to be there next week as well. Apparently it's a beautiful hotel. It's where the Springboks stayed before they played Ireland, but it's not in Paris.
Yeah, it's how far is it outside of the
I think the lads who were there for the Springbok press conference bumped into John Klein at a Boulangerie where he was looking to get to the train station to get into Paris. It was going to take him about an hour, 45 minutes an hour to get in. I mean, what's beautiful about tour and what's been great for the players is that they can kind of cycle in from their hotel, which is in the north of the city.
Yeah.
We saw the Keith Earls, Peter O'Mahony picture, but they've been able to go, but they're also able to go about their business really quietly here. There have been fans here and there, but really they're just part of the furniture here now, and it's been great for them. And I think that would be different in Paris, because if they want to get into the city, it's a big trek. But look, if they're in the knockouts of the World Cup, they'll be happy enough.
Okay, are we ready to get into the permutations?
Yes,
I have full faith in what you're going to come
We
out
need
with
visual
here.
graphics for all of this.
We do.
Just read the piece in today's paper.
Yes.
Hastily updated as South Africa failed to run up a score against Tonga last night.
I'm surprised, I was fully expecting him to absolutely...
Well, Tonga played really well. I think that was the Tonga that I expected in the first game, but it's taken them 3 weeks to get there. Ben Taumafuna was incredible. Big Ben, 145 kilos, running over Springboks. I mean, they challenged South Africa in ways that Ireland didn't. They scored 3 tries. They struggled. I mean, Pollard's back. Pollard did really well. Kicked all his goals. But South Africa's attack looked quite clunky. Their maul, it grinds teams down, but it takes a long time to get the points. I suppose the result is that you're tiring the opposition teams. But at the end of the day, they got the 5 points. They're probably in the quarterfinals, barring a remarkable set of circumstances. And what Ireland need to do this weekend is win. Or draw.
Yeah, so South Africa are top on 15, Ireland are second on 14, and Scotland are on 10.
Yeah.
And so obviously Scotland have finished their pool games.
Yeah, well, Scotland have one more to go. South Africa finished.
South Africa finished their pool games,
and because South Africa didn't win by 35 or more points, they don't have a favourable points difference going into this. So Ireland still have a bit of a cushion. If Ireland win, they go through. If Ireland draw, they go through. If Ireland lose with a bonus point and Scotland don't get a bonus point, Ireland go through. After that, it gets a bit trickier. A 4-0 win for Scotland, as in a win by more than 7 points, without scoring the four tries and stopping Ireland from scoring 4 tries, Ireland go out. 5-1 is where it gets tricky, because 5-1 means all three teams finish on 15 points, which means the top 2 teams will be decided by points difference, and then for some reason it goes to head-to-head. So in that scenario, unless Scotland win by 21 or more points, Scotland and South Africa will go through, because Scotland will have a favourable head-to-head on Ireland. Ireland will hope that it doesn't get to that point. They'll back themselves to score to win or to get 2 or more points. They really have to take this out of the equation. It's interesting for us to talk about now. If it comes down to it and we're all filing for on Sunday and we're doing these maths live in Stade de France with new editors ringing us, we're all in trouble. Ireland are in trouble. There is a scenario that they both could do an Austria-Germany job from 1982 and come to an arrangement and knock the Springboks out, with Scotland going through as pool toppers and Ireland finishing second. But I just don't think they're going to do that. It'd be quite funny though.
Scotland then at the weekend, Cian. So obviously they ran up 12 tries in their win over Romania, and again the soundings of kind of confidence seem to be coming out of them.
No surprise.
They just can't help themselves. I think we should caveat this by some of the questions, and I listened to them, were asked. I mean, how do you feel going into play against Ireland? I mean, your players aren't going to come out and say, oh, like, we're going to play the number one ranked team in the world, but it's just the little extras that they always seem to throw in. I mean, you had Steve Tandy saying yesterday, the defence coach, that there's always a first time to knock over Ireland. You had Hamish Watson saying that all the pressure is on Ireland, and that, you know, that Scotland relish being the underdogs. A very Irish kind of attitude in many ways. Look, Ireland have won the last 8 games against Scotland. Steve Tandy is right. There is always a chance, and they are a banana skin. I don't think anyone internally or outside the squad is taking this for granted by any means. Like, Rudd has just run through the permutations there. This is still a live game. Ireland need to, like, their destiny is firmly in their own hands. They just need to go out there and win. But yeah, like, I mean, there's a lot of familiarity there, which kind of, you know, it's the same for both teams. I mean, when you're playing South Africa, New Zealand, teams like that, it's always a little bit different. I mean, but they're used to playing these teams in the URC. They're used to playing them in the Six Nations. But like, I just keep going back to the Six Nations game earlier this year in Murrayfield, and if Scotland couldn't win that game when Cian Healy was scrummaging at hooker and Josh van der Fleer was thrown into the line-out, when everything that could have went wrong did go wrong for Ireland, they were away from home and they still managed to win. I think that was a really big psychological blow for Scotland. So
why exactly are Ireland Scotland's bogey team?
Well, how good are Scotland? I mean, this is the question. I mean, who have Scotland actually beaten over the last while?
England.
Who?
England.
But how good are England?
But like, that Calcutta Cup game every year amps them up.
Yeah,
and I mean, they have been, like, they are number 5 for a reason. They obviously have enough results to get into that top 5.
They haven't beaten, though.
Beat France in the warm-ups.
Yeah, but that was fair enough. But that was a mad game. It was a warm-up game. It wasn't a.
Gregor Townsend's going to play this to the players on Saturday night.
He absolutely can play it. I mean, I'm saying I'm not taking Scotland. I'm not taking Scotland for granted, but I would be. Like, it's going to. I think it would be a huge upset. I think for Scotland.
It's not just the win. The fact that they have to win by more than 7, they haven't done it for 20 years. So that would be like a remarkable set of circumstances for it to happen. But
like, I look through both of the teams, and particularly in the packs, and I think that is where the marked difference is between these two teams. And like, okay, like, I'm green tinted glasses, I'm going to take them off now, but like, you tell me one Scottish forward who'd get into that Irish pack, and I think that is where the difference is. I think Scotland's improvements in the backline have been really, really impressive. They've got a brilliant centre combination who are capable of causing any defence in the world problems. When Finn Russell is on it, we all know what he's capable of. But like, when Finn Russell has been good at this World Cup, it's when defences have been sitting off him, you know. You saw him against South Africa, against that rush defence. Didn't quite nail a few of his briefs in that game. So I think it's up front is where the big difference is, and I would fully expect Ireland to double down on what I think is a distinct advantage.
Like, you're right, and there's a reason that Irish players get picked for Lions tours and Scottish players didn't until Gregor Townsend became the Lions coach.
Chris Harris. I mean, you go through the players that were picked ahead of Irish players, like, it was.
I think if it will take something extraordinary to happen for Scotland to beat Ireland, but it is a local rivalry. There is the kind of, you know, once the referee blows his whistle, anything can happen. You know, there could be a red card in the first 5 minutes. You know, Ireland's discipline's been exceptional. I do think the break came at a really good time for Ireland, because if Ireland had played Scotland 6 or 7 days after they'd beaten South Africa, it would have been very natural for them to kind of sail through the first half of that week high on the fumes of beating the Box and that night and the celebrations and stuff. It would only be natural for them to find it difficult to come back down. But instead, they were able to go out. They were able to have a couple of drinks, go stay. You know, those who have families spend time with their families. A couple of them got an Airbnb in Paris. They blew off some steam, came back in last Wednesday, and now the way they're framing it, I would assume, is that this is the first of the knockout games. Mm-hmm. This is the last 16. They ought to win 4 games to win a World Cup. The first of them is against Scotland. They're not looking at the permutations. I mean, I'm sure the captain or the leadership group will have them in the backs of their minds just in case, but really they shouldn't be looking at the permutations. It's a team that they always beat. You know, when it comes down to it, Glasgow, Edinburgh, the Irish provinces generally beat them as well. It's sometimes tricky, but Cian's right. Like, it's very hard to pick a Scottish player would get into the Irish 15, maybe the 23. But again, that may come across as arrogant, and that, you know, Scots are often accused of being arrogant by Irish kind of fans and stuff. And that, a lot of it came down to Stuart Hogg, to be honest. But I just don't see the route to victory for Scotland unless something goes wrong. But if they get it right, like they did in that first half of Murrayfield, where their attack caused Ireland huge problems. Like, they can get up a score, and then the pressure comes on, because it is a knockout game, and Ireland have never won a knockout game in a World Cup. So if they get into an attacking position and they ask questions of Ireland, then Ireland will have to answer them, and that's something we need to see from this Irish team. But I would have confidence that they would.
Yeah, and we spoke to Conor Murray recently, or just a few days ago, at the press conference. Obviously, he was asked about Scotland, and this is what he had to say about the challenge coming this weekend.
Like I said, we've had huge battles with Scotland over the years, and especially recently. They've really developed their game, and I think I would, if you were Scotland, they said it afterwards that they were upset with the way they performed against South Africa. They didn't show the best version of themselves. So, you know, we know, obviously they're in the Six Nations, we play them every year, we know how good they can be, and we're certainly not overlooking them. That might be the story outside, but I can assure you it's completely different in here.
Will Conor Murray start against Scotland?
I would be very surprised if he starts. I think he's been playing brilliant, like really, really good rugby, not just at this World Cup, but he's had a really good season. No, I would be surprised if he starts. I don't think
Should he start?
No, I think Jameson Gibson Park is still Ireland's first choice scrum half, and I don't think he's been at his best actually at this World Cup, but that gives me cause for optimism that guys like Jameson Gibson Park still have scope for improvement. I think there's one or two kind of in that boat. No, I think Jameson Gibson Park is still Ireland's first choice and he should start. I think they are going to want to play high tempo. Like I said, they're going to look to take them on up front. I wouldn't imagine there'll be too many changes. I would fully expect Dan Sheehan to start now that he's fit again. I think the big question is, would you start Jack Onan or have him on the bench? Personally, I think there's going to be a strong temptation to start Jack Onan, just to get him minutes. It will obviously depend on if he's able to train fully this week, if he trained fully last week, which we're led to believe that he has. But I think there's definitely going to be an eagerness to get him good game time before the knockouts, if they can make it.
I'd start Conor Murray. I think you back form, and he is in better form than Jameson Gibson Park, who was charged down twice by the Springboks in that first half. This is going to be knockout rugby. You need a strong kicking game, and Conor Murray's the better kicker. He can play with tempo, and he's in better form than Jameson Gibson Park. 4 years ago, I argued that he shouldn't be starting in World Cup games because he wasn't playing well at that time, and Joe Schmidt stuck by him. Well, now he's playing well. I think he should play. I think Cian should come in. Conan, I think a lot depends on James Ryan. We don't know the full picture there. We're led to believe that he's okay, that he's going to train this week, that he'll be fine for the weekend. But there's
he's
a bit
on
of
a modified training schedule, is what we've been told after the Springboks game. So
yeah, and like
he
that
didn't seem to come off with an injury though in that game, did he?
No, I don't think he did. I think he's probably just carrying a knock. Like, look, it was such a bruising game, but like he has a few days. I mean, what I've heard
he's
is
come off early in 2 games.
Yeah, like what I've heard is that if the game was on tomorrow, James Ryan will be playing. So I would fully expect James Ryan to be fit and available. But I guess like Ian Henderson did do really well, but I can't see James Ryan if he's fit not playing.
And that has a knock-on effect though to the Jack Conan conversation, because Ian Henderson then comes into the team if Ryan is out. Conan probably comes onto the bench and Baird or Joe McCarthy goes to 19. If Conan comes in, Baird drops out. I think that's harsh on Baird. I think he had a good influence off the bench last time and he brings great energy. But Conan is that test line, and you know he would add an awful lot to what Ireland bring to the table. But I don't. You know, the other big question I think is whether Henshaw comes into the team. I don't see why you would mess with that midfield. I think his role has been very good. He came in during that HIA period in the first half, hit the ground running straight away, was really good. He finished the game out really well. And I just don't see how you break up Aki and Ringrose, especially when Scotland's area of greatest strength is that midfield.
Yeah. What about the other games of the weekend? At the weekend as well, lads. Obviously, New Zealand 96-17 win over Italy. Is that changing the way we're thinking about New Zealand quarterfinals?
I don't think it is. Who is underestimating playing New Zealand in a quarterfinal? Like, it's just crazy to even suggest that if Ireland were playing New Zealand in the quarterfinal, that anyone would be taking the All Blacks for granted. Like, I just don't buy into that at all.
Would you still take them over France though?
I would, yeah, because the World Cup is in France, and France is so bloody hard to beat in Paris.
And
but
they're a good team as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But if it's on neutral ground, I mean, like, is Dupont going to be playing? Is he going to actually be fit? I mean, I know he came back to training yesterday, but God, you see the photos of him, and he was wearing a cap almost, it seemed like, to cover how battered his face still was. So, look, that's going to be a calculated risk. But New Zealand were exceptional, but I thought, if anything, that game said more about Italy. That was an absolutely embarrassing, appalling performance from an Italian side who have made improvements under Kieran Crowley over the last couple of years, but that was back to the dark old days. Like, that was shocking. Their defence was some of the worst defence that I've ever seen. First up tackles falling off them I don't know if like the players just threw in the towel early or what, but it was a gutless performance. And we've seen a lot of blowout wins at this World Cup, but that's against like tier 1 and tier 2 nations. That should not be happening against a Six Nations team. So I thought it said more about Italy, but I'm still very wary if Ireland were playing New Zealand. Of course you are.
Like, it's not a foregone conclusion, but I still think if you were ranking the teams at this tournament, they will be fourth behind Ireland, South Africa and France. I think Ireland, and particularly South Africa and France, have physical capabilities that New Zealand can't live with. And on opening night, they were able to throw punches really, really well, and they were able to construct really good first phase tries. But when France dragged them into the trenches, as Ireland will do, as South Africa will do, and you hear Ian Foster complaining about the ball and play time in the Ireland South Africa game and saying fans want to see what we saw on Friday night. Well, like,
such a strange comment that was.
But it's classic the way New Zealand have been left behind by the way the game has been played in the last couple of years. It doesn't mean over 80 minutes they can't take down Ireland or South Africa or Scotland in a quarter-final, but I still think that you would rather play them in Paris than France, and the way the emotion of the occasion can kind of fuel France through it. You know, a quarter-final against New Zealand will be an Irish majority crowd. It will be like a home game. Whereas
that's such a good point. That is like, I mean, it's a sport over here. We've gone on about it. It's been incredible, and you're so right, Rod. If Ireland were playing France, like, it would be obviously mostly French, but if they're playing New Zealand, the Stade de France would be an Irish takeover again, and that would be absolutely massive. Look, if you want to win this World Cup, I think you're going to have to beat France, but like, you'd rather be playing them as late as possible, I think.
And if we want to get really ahead of ourselves, the winner of that quarter-final that New Zealand are probably going to be in will be playing Wales or Argentina in a semi-final, which is the lesser of the two semi-finals as well. So your path to the ultimate, Ireland are here to win the World Cup. They're not here to win a quarter-final, and that's something I think the Irish fans and the Irish public need to get their heads around, that winning a World Cup quarter-final is not something to be celebrated. It's just a step along the way. Obviously, you beat All Blacks in the World Cup, it will be a big moment, but they got to back it up a week later, and they would prefer, I think, to play Wales than England or Fiji, which would probably be England. I think England would be a more problematic game, even though Wales are improving. But like, we've annoyed the Scots today. We've written off New Zealand. Now we're Keane's taking a cut at Italy, and now we're writing off Wales in the semi-final. So if anyone's getting ahead of ourselves, it's us.
No, I will reiterate, Scotland are a banana skin, like a major banana skin. But if Ireland play like even close to their best, they should beat them. And like, I've got no problem saying that. I don't think that's an arrogance. I think Ireland are the number 1 ranked team in the world. They've racked up all these victories in a row for a good reason, and I still think this Scotland team haven't had a signature victory, but that's not to say it couldn't happen this weekend.
Would they have picked up anything in particular? I know Romania.
What did Kieran Crowley said about the Italy game afterwards, the Italian head coach, that he's just going to throw it in the bin and not look at it? I would be thinking similar lines to Scotland. I don't think the Irish management will be looking through that game at all. Like, they're going to have an almost entirely new 15, you'd suggest, this weekend. But it's no different to when Ireland played Romania. I doubt the Scots really read too much into that either. So it was a good run out for guys like Ben Healy, who played really well. Hamish Watson, who's become almost the forgotten man of Scottish rugby, can't get back in the team. Darcy Graham was exceptional. Like, he's going to break Stuart Hogg's try scoring record, which is remarkable. So,
but he may not play. Apparently, the big talk in Scotland is whether they go with Kyle Stein, because Kyle Stein kind of is better suited to the way Ireland will play. But then you're letting Ireland pick your team, but I think you're right. You throw that one in the bin, but you go back and look at the Tonga game, where Tonga caused Scotland all sorts of problems before losing their discipline, and South Africa, like the template, like South Africa shut Scotland down. They shut down Finn Russell, and watching him lose his way during that second half in the face of that Blitz defence was very, very interesting. Now, they say they didn't perform that day. They actually had a pretty good first half in many ways, but their line-out malfunctioned. We've got two line-outs which have their hairy moments. It's going to be like, it's a proper game, and I think, the closer we get to it, it doesn't have the same, like, Gregor Townsend's not going to go 7-1. It doesn't have the same excitement as the Springbok game, and that's a worry that, you just can't, getting yourself up for that, but I think this team will.
Absolutely. We also got to speak to one of the backroom staff a few days ago as well, Emma Gardner. She's head of nutrition with the RFU. So she's been in the role for a year now. She previously worked with the Great Britain women's hockey team, who won gold at the 2016 Rio Olympics. She also worked with the England cricket team when they became world champions in 2019. So she was kind of just giving us a lot of background info in terms of like calories, what the players eat. And you also asked her a good question, Rory, about alcohol consumption amongst the players kind of
Were you trying to
in a
get tips for
tournament like this
yourself,
World
or?
Cup?
Well, yeah, it was how do you recover?
Food is mood was one
Food
that
is
stood
mood
out
was like,
to
I
me.
like that one. Yeah, I mean, I think you can see over the course of each video as we get bigger and bigger, the food is mood over here. It was very interesting because we don't often get to talk to the people behind the team. Like we got assistant coaches, we got players. I think they're getting to the stage now where the assistant coaches are sick of seeing us, so they're trying to kind of rotate things a bit more. But Emma Gardner came in, and it was a very enlightening kind of 18, 19 minutes of and I asked her about supplements as well and how much they're used, and she said not as much as you'd think. I think people assume that rugby players are taking a lot of supplements. She said no, we try and use food as much as possible. She talked about the calorie intake as you mentioned, but also the alcohol, because we saw that picture of Peter O'Mahony and Conor Murray enjoying a bottle of rosé, an iconic picture. I asked Conor on Saturday as he got an endorsement deal lined up with a rosé company. He says he's working on it, but like a lot of people, I think certainly in the GAA world, put that picture up on social media going, hang on a second, our players take 6 months off alcohol to try and win a county championship, and here we have the professionals going out celebrating a win and being able to do it. And she said, look, the players set the standard. We'll hear her here now, but I thought it was a very interesting answer, and it shows a bit of a maturity, I think.
Yeah, I think we don't have rules, we have standards, and the lads know those standards, they create those standards. My job's really easy in that space. They know they're very professional. They also need to look after their own bodies. I think we're very clear on, they know the time. They know the time when they can slightly relax. As I've just alluded to, we can do that with food. They can do that if they want to have a drink. But they also understand what's ahead of them. So there's a trust either way, there's a respect. And I think what's really nice in this environment is, as I said, we don't say you can or cannot do that. They do things at their own discretion, and we all understand what we're trying to achieve. We're all on the same page with that. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. They're back in. We're ready to go for the next game, and I'm sure that will continue in this group.
And just moving away from the World Cup, Cian, you spoke to Adam Byrne, who has retired from rugby now.
Yeah, retired at 29, kind of went a bit under the radar, I think, because it was in the summer, people were off and whatnot. But yeah, like, sad really, I suppose, that a 29-year-old who, like you was telling me, he's had 9 surgeries as well as like countless other injuries. And when we have a piece up in independent.ie and in the Irish Independent today, but when he's actually telling you like everything that he went through, the mental and physical toll that he has put himself through, but what really shone through, I think, through it all was like his resilience. He's a remarkably positive character, was really popular in the Leinster dressing room as well. But he had a chance to go to Chicago to play in the MLR with Dave Carney and Nick McCarthy, who obviously 2 of his former teammates. Dave Carney is one of his best mates, but he got an offer with a sports company. Basically, it sounds like you wear a sensor in the gym. He calls it the GPS of the gym. So he's gone working in Boston now and playing for his local club over there. So good stories about how he's getting on. He was saying he made his debut the week before last for the local club team. It doesn't sound like the standard is great. He got nutmegged for a try, and he's arrived over as kind of their big signing. But he was saying like the day before the game that Josh van der Fleer, a guy who he lived with for, I think he was saying 8 or 9 years, they came through the academy together, rang him the day before that Josh van der Fleer was about to play South Africa, wondering was he okay and was he ready for his big game. And like Adam Byrne just said, like it was just a mark of the man. Like we've always said like how nice Josh van der Fleer is, but that was more evidence to it. He was more concerned with how Adam Byrne was going to get on in his lower league game than he was himself about how he's going to nullify the Springboks. So yeah, there's plenty in it. He only ever won 1 cap for Ireland, which is a bit sad as well, because like you think back to like Joe Schmidt was such a big fan.
Well, he gave him his debut at 19 as a
19
player,
yeah. So like he's kind of happy with his lot, I suppose, is the long and short of it. But you can't help but wonder, like there is a strong sense of what might have been with him.
Of course. Well, we are going to enjoy our last few days in tour. So the team will leave here on Thursday morning. The team will be announced later on Thursday. Do we know when the Scotland team is going to be named?
Thursday.
Will it be Thursday as well? Yeah. Any plans for the last few days, lads, besides working, of course?
Oh, we might get out and see a bit of the area today, hopefully, and then just soak up the atmosphere in tour.
Final
It's
bit of
test
sun.
week. I mean, the work is going to get going again. There's pressers tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it's a big game to look forward to. But yeah, we'll miss this place and the Tudor buildings that we're looking at over here. It's all pretty stunning. Yeah, we'll have the latest as well from Ireland training tomorrow, and Will and Luke will be back with the Left Wing podcast tomorrow.